All right, thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Manos. Thank you, of course, from my part as well. Congratulations, not only with the course, but let's not forget for your continuous efforts for the education with the mini battles we had during the COVID. It was great to follow everything. So thank you for that as well. Not only the course, but for participating in every other meetings that we are organizing. Thank you so much. So you gave me a rather strange topic, trending. The trends in posterior superior cuff repair. So the past weeks I felt kind of a trend watcher. So I went around and tried to be everywhere at all meetings. So I tried to be, I was at the Val d'Isère meeting, I was in Paris, we had in Antwerp the course, we are here. So I was always with my eyes watching to all the trends. But probably if you see the program that Manos and Manos put together, we've got all trends together today, so probably I'll repeat some stuff that we've just seen during the previous session, which was, I think, very great, and there's some other stuff that we're going to see this afternoon. So I'll start with just a small overview of most recent literature, connecting to my own experience a little, and then I'll just finish with my own trends with a short video of what we do now and the trends that we are following the past years. So if you go to literature and look for rotator cuff repair, posterior superior, there are some new evolutions the past years. I'll just go over a few of them. I'm not covering everything for sure, but just going over a few of them. And of course, Christian Gerber's paper on the acromion index, critical shoulder angle, was very interesting, and was a pleasure for me to read an article of one of my good friends, Stan Muurmans from Belgium. They were looking at all these measurements, looking at the effect on our rotator cuff repair, and it's a bit strange because he's really reliable. He's a very, very good surgeon, and he said actually that the critical shoulder angle didn't play any role, but that the index was more important. On the other hand, we've got other papers coming out, and there was actually a systematic review saying that both were quite important. So I think that trend, looking at the acromial, not only the types as we know, type 1, 2, or 3, but mainly actually the lateral covering of the acromion, I think that trend will continue to play a role in our repairs. So for me, what does it changed? Then I'm doing probably in more and more cases a lateral acromioplasty, taking more care of the lateral part of the acromion. Techniques and configurations, there's so many papers. We've seen so many different techniques already this morning. We will see many more techniques this afternoon. The good thing is that if you look at very recent papers where we go to comparing single row, double rows, there are already papers comparing the transosseous techniques with the previous techniques that we have, just going over. So it's good news that those results are actually equal. So with our new techniques, which are better for our economics, as we heard in the previous session, we can manage to have the same results. So I think this is a very good trend that will continue, and we will see more and more results probably of this transosseous repairs after we've seen the techniques in the previous session. For my own practice, I'll come back to that a bit later, the change that I did in my technique and configuration. So I'll come back to that a bit later. Probably one of the big trends the past years, and we'll hear about that this afternoon, is some big guys talking this afternoon, inventors really of the techniques who are talking this afternoon. I think the biceps tendon is probably one of the big hot topics, not only for superior capsule reconstruction, as we've seen in many articles. We've seen biomechanical studies. We've seen the biceps being used as an augmentation for cuff repair. All these articles, they can be found after the presentation, of course, from the conference itself. So for me, I think and we heard about this afternoon, some great talks this afternoon on biceps tendon. Is a great new trend, is definitely there to stay. It's a very cheap solution to reinforce our repairs, to use as superior capsule reconstruction if you believe in it. So one of the big trends is definitely there to stay, is the use of the biceps. We continue the past years discussing about biceps tenodesis tenotomy in combination with cuff repair or for slap lesions. Many articles, but to be honest, at the end we compare so many different techniques, and at the end all the results are quite similar. Nice scientific work, but what does it mean for me? If I'm addressing the biceps tendon, I choose for the most cheap solution and the most easy solution. So in many cases it's a tenotomy of the biceps, or just maybe a tenodesis high in the groove from intraarticular. Of course, the extra implants, we've had the balloon invention, we have all kind of patches evolving. We've seen a very nice biological augmentation this morning in one of the relays. I think this is a nice evolution. With many papers on superior capsule reconstruction, a lot of meta-analysis, papers on balloon reconstruction. We've got Paul here with us, who managed to do a lot of those. But at the end, up until now, we're not there yet. We were talking about economics, taking care of putting less anchors, transosseous, and of course this is completely opposite. It's very expensive surgery. And up until now, it's not really certain if it makes a big difference. What did it mean in my practice? Because I saw Paul a few years ago, and he was at that time very enthusiastic. I had the opportunity to use it once, because in Belgium it's not reimbursed. So just because of the company, I got to use it once. And to be honest, this is my only experience. I was amazed. This is a revision case in a very young guy. Case like we see him this morning. Been operated for a cuff repair at a very young age, complete re-rupture with kind of retraction grade 2. And I did a repair, and I used the balloon as an augmentation on top of the repair. And I rarely show movies of patients, but this guy was so enthusiastic 6 weeks after his surgery. And it's very rare. It's my only experience. I know Paul stopped using it. But anyway, maybe there's something behind it, and maybe the future will tell us a bit more about these implants and evolutions. So having said this, maybe just go over to my own trends, what we do in our hospital. And the biggest trend changer was actually the type of tears that just been discussed in the discussion of the previous session, is the patient where we see a re-tear at the tendon muscle side, where you see on the scan there's a very nicely tendon on top of the tuberosity, and then there's a lesion at the muscular side. So we were thinking, okay, this is a big problem, can we do something about it? And in our hands, what we changed the most the past years is absolutely to avoid traction. We've heard that a few times this morning already. And then of course take care of the tendon, and I think that is the most important message that I would like to give from my part on. This is a video of one of the presentations I gave many years ago, and I was so proud with the result and with what I did. And I was very happy and proud to show this video. But at the end, probably this is one of the tendons that evolved to a rupture at the muscle tendon side. Because there's so many sutures on top, we're pushing the tendon down, we're killing actually all the tendon part. And I was happy at that stage. But now we probably would avoid this type of repairs, just taking care more about the tendon itself. So what do we do, and what did we change? We changed actually completely our indication for single and double row. We've heard this morning the importance of avoiding traction. And in literature, it's very difficult to compare all papers with single and double row. For us, in our setting, single row means that we cannot bring the cuff all the way over the greater tuberosity. And that means that we're going to fix the cuff really on top of the tuberosity. So for our indications to go for single row, that means that we've got a big cuff tear that we cannot pull completely back over the tuberosity. So single row for me means that I'm putting my anchor really in the middle, and double row for me means that we're using 2 anchors and that we will be able to cover the tuberosity completely. So having said this changed completely our indication for single and double row. When I started, we did a single row for a small repair, thinking, okay, this is going to be enough. And in a massive tear, we used the double row repair, trying to pull everything back with a lot of traction on. And these days, actually, we changed completely, meaning that if there's a small or medium tear, and we heard that this morning as well, we use a double row construction because biomechanically it's a little stronger, the contact surface is bigger, and without any problems of traction, we can actually put the tendon nicely back together. But in large tears, we don't want the tendon to pull over completely. So in that case, we use single row. So in our hands, single row means that we're going to reduce the tendon a bit less. Instead of bringing it completely over, we'll just put it on top. And there's the papers, of course. If you're going to compare papers, it's very difficult. What do you mean and what's your indication for single double row? Having said that, our construction that we've been using for more than 15 years is the bridging technique. I like the bridging technique a lot. But on the left side, you can see what we did previously. Our mattress sutures, and we've seen a lot of mattress sutures being passed in the movies this morning, initially were very, very wide. And actually we had the lazy man stitch. I don't know if you remember, lazy man stitch meant that by going once through the cuff, you took 2 sutures. So actually you connected both mattress sutures to each other. And the construction on the left side, we changed in the middle one, meaning that we're not going as medial as we did before. Our mattress sutures, they become very, very tiny, with the reason that we want really the tendon not to be cut by the sutures, and we want really the collagen fibers running through from the muscle to the tendon part of the connection. And of course, if you want, you can use a triple row as we've seen this morning as well. So that is our biggest change. We don't want that massive amount of sutures on top of the tendon, and definitely we don't want to cut it with wide medial mattress sutures. Speed bridge is kind of an alternative if you use one single lateral anchor, but I still like to tie the knots at the medial side just to reassure that there's no sliding through of the suture. So I'm still tying the medial mattress sutures and bringing them back to the lateral side. So just to finish what we do now and just to give some comments on our trends or what the things that we changed. We've seen this morning in a video as well that there was a resection of the lateral tendon. Please do not forget that. The lateral tendon is dead. There are no living tenocytes at the lateral tendon which is ruptured. So debride the tendon as we debride the footprint as well. Of course, don't take away too much tendon, then it becomes too difficult. But you should definitely debride a little of the tendon itself. We try to clean the footprint completely as we can. We want to remove every soft tissue, creating a really interface in between bone and tendon. In this case, as it was a rather intermediate rupture, we selected a double row repair, meaning that the medial anchors we put very medial close to the cartilage. And in this case, we use 2. One trend that I didn't put out is the different anchors that we're using now. We are all using, many of us are using all suture anchors for instability. I think it's proven now that all suture anchors for rotator cuff work very nice as well. So this is the case with an all suture anchor. From the lateral view, this is how it looks like. We use the clever hooks as I was trained by Bruno Toussaint and Laurent Foss. I do all my surgery with the clever hook. Previously, probably we would go a lot more medial. Now we stick more lateral to the tendon part, easily passing the sutures. And most important, passing the second suture, we will use very tiny distance. So you can see, and that's a big advantage of using the clever hooks, you can really judge the distance in between the positions of different type of sutures. In these cases, we look as well, we don't need to use all sutures. You can pull a suture out, even out of an anchor if you like to. So in this repair, we'll use 3 sutures. We take 1 suture away, there is no problem. The anchor is still very strong, still very nicely fixed. We start from the back and we work our way out to the front. Another evolution that I'm not talking about is we saw this morning some tapes as well. I think the tape evolution is a good evolution as well. Tapes cut less in your fingers. And if it cuts less in your fingers, it will cut less to the tissues as well. So up until now, we're not standard working with the tapes, but I think the evolution is good because it's softer for us, so it will be softer for the tissue. So the trend of the new implants and the new sutures is very nice to follow, and I think the companies are evolving in the good direction. Although they won't be happy with the transosseous though, but anyway, we hope the companies still support us for what we do. So tying the knots is the second thing. When I started, I almost went home every evening after day's surgery with my fingers cut because I really wanted to tighten it very hard. We don't do that anymore. We just slide down the knot. Don't push too hard. Pushing too hard will kill again the soft tissues which are underneath there. So we just very gently slide down our sutures. A sliding knot, the easy knot we use, very easy. We put two single sutures on top of it, and we do that one after the other. And then, of course, for the bridging technique, we will take the sutures together, bring them to the lateral side, and we're going to fix them. One remark, maybe if there's softish, if the bone is very soft, as we could hear, it's a problem for the transosseous procedures. Of course, in this type of repairs, soft bone is a problem as well. But if the bone is too soft and you feel it, you can just go as lateral as you want. And if you go very lateral, from one moment, the cortical bone will become stronger. So if you feel that high up, the bone is not strong enough, just put your lateral anchor more down, more laterally, and you find some strong bone. This is just to show that we tension the sutures just by our hand. Previously, initially, when the bridging technique was evolved, there were really tensioning devices to put as much tension as you could. Please don't use it. Just with your hands, try to put it very gentle. And at the end, this is the configuration that we have. There's a lot of tendon fibers running through, so we don't cut with large mattress sutures the medial side, hoping to take care of the tendon as much as we can. If you're not happy, you can reuse the same sutures again. If you got a dog's ear like this, you're saying, listen, I'm not happy with this construct, just use the same sutures with a single stitch. It's an unsliding at that moment, of course, but you can just reinforce it and finishing your repair as you would like to. And again, there's no tension on this. There's a lot of fibers running through. There's not too much sutures on top of the soft tissues. So this way we take care of the healing itself. We're not still sure if we can augment biology. We will hear that this afternoon in the other talks. But at least we can take care of biology by changing our technique this way. And of course, as I said before we finish with the lateral acromioplasty, having heard about the results of the index and the effect of the re-tears, we do lateral acromioplasty and we resect the anterior osteophytes. So in conclusion, if you look at the trends, I think the acromion index, critical shoulder anger, absolutely take care of that. Techniques and configurations, as we have this day here, of course, we see many techniques, so we're there. Use of the biceps, it's definitely here to stay. If we have to do a tenodesis tenotomy, it's not clear yet. Extra implants, patch and balloons, we'll see that in the future. Biologic augmentation, I didn't went into that. We have a talk after this, but at least if we maybe not can augment it, respect it and try to adjust your surgery to the biology of the repair. Thank you.